Opening the polls. The polls open at 7 a.m. on Election Day. Before voters start voting at 7 a.m., there are several key tasks to complete. First, if the chairperson was not sworn in prior to Election Day, an election inspector should administer the chairperson oath found in the front of the poll book, and both the chairperson and the person administering the oath should sign. Next, the chairperson should give the oath to all election inspectors. Once everyone has been sworn in, it's time to prepare the polling place. Some local clerks can prepare a polling place before an election more than others. Your tasks may vary. Remember, a minimum of 3 inspectors must be present at all times, with at least one from each major political party. Precinct setup is important. Ensure tables and chairs and the stations they represent are placed in a manner that allows for an orderly flow through the process and include the appropriate supplies. When possible, we recommend using one door to enter, setting up tables in a U shape, and having voters exit out a different door. Generally, the first station a voter goes to is one where they can complete the application to vote. Make sure this station is the logical first step for the voter and has applications to vote and pens. The next station should be the e-poll book and ballot issuance station. Make sure the e-poll book is set up so it can be plugged in all day and ensure the cord is not a tripping hazard. Use the EPB Election Inspector Manual to properly prepare the laptop for use. Ballots, secrecy sleeves, and demonstration pads are necessary supplies. The voting booths and voter assist terminal should be set up in a manner that ensures voter privacy. There should always be at least one sit-down booth for voters, in addition to the voter assist terminal. Each booth should have a blue or black ink pen for voter use and be checked throughout the day to verify no campaign material was left behind. A station that is near the tabulator should also be set up to collect secrecy sleeves and keep the rejected ballot scripts within easy reach. Don't forget the I voted stickers. A public area should also be set up. This provides a place for observation without disrupting the process. If using the U-shape setup, the top of the U is a good place for the public area. Some jurisdictions also utilize a help desk or greeting station. Follow instructions from your local clerk. Many things need to be displayed in the precinct and easily visible to voters. They include a flag of the United States inside or outside, vote here direction signage, including clearly marking the accessible entrance and path, sample ballots, 2 Election Day voter information posters, proposal language posters when applicable. Preparing the electronic equipment for use. There are 3 types of voting equipment used throughout the state. Please consult the appropriate manuals for detailed opening instructions. When preparing the tabulator and voter assist terminal for use, the following must be completed. 1. Verify the serial and seal numbers on the equipment with the clerk's preparation certificate on the front of the poll book. When completing this step, you are ensuring nothing has happened to the equipment since the Election Commission completed the public accuracy test. 2. Complete all preparation steps required of the equipment. If any issues are encountered, contact your local clerk immediately. It's important to note that every tabulator has an emergency bin. In the event of a tabulator failure, voting should continue. Open the emergency bin and have voters deposit their voted ballots inside. 3. Compare a sample ballot with the tabulator zero tape. Verify you have the correct precinct. All candidates' names appear on both the tape and the ballot. Vote totals on the tape are all zeros, The zero tape should not be removed from the machine and should be signed by all election inspectors present. If any issues are encountered, contact your clerk immediately. Once all these steps are complete, sign the certifying preparation certificate in the poll book. At 7 a.m., announce the opening of the polls by declaring the polls are now open. Thank you for watching.
Processing voters. As the voter enters the polling location, greet the voter and instruct the voter how to complete the application to vote. Ask the voter if he or she has photo ID. The following types of photo ID qualify as acceptable: driver's license or personal identification card issued by Michigan or another state, federal or state government issued photo identification, U.S. passport, military identification card with photo, student identification with photo from a high school or an accredited institution of higher education, tribal identification card with photo. If a voter does not have valid photo ID in his or her possession at the polls, that voter is still welcome to vote under Michigan law. These voters simply have to sign a separate affidavit attesting to their identity, and their ballots are tabulated normally. When using the electronic poll book, swipe the voter's driver's license or type the voter's name into the appropriate field to find the voter's record. Verify that the information in the e-poll book is the same as what the voter has indicated on the application to vote. If you have a split precinct, this is the time to confirm which ballot style the voter should receive and communicate that to the ballot station inspector. If the voter's information is not correct, or a status flag is found next to the voter's name in the e-poll book, take the necessary steps to ensure the voter is eligible for a ballot. Then ask the election inspector at the ballot station what the next ballot number is and enter it into the e-poll book. The election inspector at the ballot station completes the inspector portion of the application to vote, including the ballot number and voter number. The election inspector gives the voter the ballot in a secrecy sleeve and the application to vote. Make sure a booth is available for the voter and provide the voter with brief instructions on how to properly mark the ballot. An election inspector should be waiting between the voting booths and the tabulator. This election inspector should be at least 10 feet from the tabulator. For each voter, verify that the ballot number listed on the application to vote is the same ballot number the voter presents to you. Then remove the ballot stub from the ballot and instruct the voter on how to insert the ballot into the tabulator. It's very important to ensure the privacy of the voter's ballot at all times. If the tabulator rejects the voter's ballot for any reason, be prepared to assist the voter and explain how the voter can correct any errors. Checks and balances. Quality control. As you administer the polls throughout the day, it is important to employ check and balance procedures provided under the law to protect the integrity of the elections process and remove any appearance of impropriety. The following tasks must be performed by 2 election workers of different political parties: offering instructions to voters after they have entered the voting station, assisting voters in marking their ballots, processing absentee ballots in the polling location, duplicating absentee ballots rejected by the tabulator after the polls have closed, recording write-in votes. One reads while the other records the votes. Removing ballots from the tabulator bin before the polls have closed. Sealing ballot containers. Preparing and sealing the special envelopes for return. Removing and sealing the tabulator program for return. Delivering the ballot containers and envelopes to the local receiving board. Correcting precinct canvass mistakes discovered by the receiving board. Physical count of the ballots if the ballot summary does not balance. Monitoring throughout the day can help you stay on track and ensure quality and accuracy. Compare the number of applications to vote to the number of voters in the poll book and to the tabulator public counter to make sure your numbers match. If your numbers do not match, remember that you may have voters and ballots currently in the booths. Document any issues in the remarks section of the poll book. Include anything out of the ordinary. Identify who is making the remark. Include all relevant details. Ballot jams. Refer to the guide for your specific voting system for detailed instructions on how to properly remove a jammed ballot from the tabulator. Keep in mind that jams may be caused by ballot backups or a voter not letting go at the proper time. When clearing a ballot jam, check for tabulator messages. Account for all of the ballots and compare to the public counter. Note if the ballot was counted or not. If the ballot counted, deposit the cleared ballot in the ballot bin. If the ballot was not counted, retabulate that ballot
Duplicating ballots. Some ballots may need to be duplicated by election inspectors when they contain false overvotes, cannot be scanned by the tabulator due to the voter's use of an improper marking tool, contain corrections, contain false crossover votes in a partisan primary, are an electronic move ballot, are a federal write-in absentee ballot, or a FWAB. Ballots unable to be read by the tabulator must be duplicated onto new ballots that the tabulator will accept. Duplicating ballots is a simple process that should be completed after the polls have closed and before the tabulator has been shut down. Using 2 election inspectors with different party affiliation, take the ballot or ballots that need to be duplicated and the next unvoted ballot that would have been issued to a voter. Remove the stub of the new ballot and then write ORG1 on the first voted ballot to indicate the ballot is the original, and DUP1 on the unvoted ballot somewhere in the header of the ballot to indicate the ballot is the duplicate. If there is ever a question as to whether the ballots were properly duplicated, this ensures the ballots can be matched to one another for verification. One election inspector should read the valid votes from the original ballot while the other election inspector marks that vote in the target area on the duplicate ballot. Both inspectors should take care to review the duplicated ballot for accuracy. If a mistake occurs when duplicating a ballot, note the error on the ballot and place it into the original ballot's envelope. Obtain a new unused ballot from your supplies. If there are more ballots that need to be duplicated, repeat the same process, but be sure to change the number written on each ballot. So the next ballot set should have original 2 on the voted ballot and dupe 2 on the unvoted ballot. After these steps have been completed for all ballots needing duplication, place the original ballots in the original ballot storage envelope and tabulate the duplicated ballots. Be sure to record the number of all ballots used for duplication in the ballot summary. The original ballot storage envelope should then be sealed into the ballot container with all other ballots at the end of the night. Closing of the polls, ballot summary and poll book completion. After you are sure all ballots have been tabulated, including any late arriving absentee ballots or ballots that require duplication, begin completion of the 3 reports generated in the poll book. Start by performing one last backup, then move on to the ballot summary. Be sure to use the ePoll book manual for each of these final steps to ensure you do not miss anything. In the first section of the ballot summary, enter the starting and ending number of the ballots you started with at the beginning of the day. If you have more than one ballot style, simply use the Tab key to create a new line until you've entered the numbers for each style. If you processed absentee ballots in the precinct, enter the number of absentee ballots, including FWABs and move ballots, that were returned by voters for you to process. Do not include any absent voter ballots that were spoiled prior to Election Day or issued but not returned by the voter. Now start the next section. This section is an accounting of what happened to the ballots throughout Election Day. Start with the number of ballots tabulated. You'll get this number from the tabulator and enter it on line D. If you processed AV ballots and any of the envelopes were empty, enter that number on line E. If the EPB was used properly throughout the day to account for spoiled, rejected, and envelope ballots, those numbers will already be completed for you. You cannot modify those numbers in the ballot summary. If there are errors, they'll need to be corrected within the appropriate voter record. Next, record the number of ballots you use for duplication, if any, on line H. Finally, enter the number of unused ballots in line J. The starting number is the number of the ballot you would use if one more voter were to have voted. What ballot number would you have given them? Then enter the ending number of your unused ballots. Repeat this step if you had more than one ballot style by hitting Tab to create a new line. In order for the ballot summary to calculate properly, you must hit the Tab key twice or put the cursor in a different box. Election inspectors forget this key step and often wonder why their ballot summary difference is off. Once you hit the Tab key twice or move your cursor into a different box, you should see the number 0 on line L. If you do not see a 0, that means your ballot summary does not balance, and you must do some troubleshooting to find out why. If the total number of ballots tabulated is less than the total number of voters recorded in the poll book, check the auxiliary bin for any remaining ballots that should be duplicated and/or tabulated. Verify that all absentee ballots have been tabulated. Go through all of the envelopes to ensure they are empty. Compare the applications to vote against the list of voters to ensure every voter and every ballot, including spoiled, were entered into the EPB correctly. Verify all spoiled ballots were recorded. If the steps above do not solve the discrepancy, contact the local clerk. If the total number of ballots tabulated is more than the total number of voters recorded in the poll book, first compare the applications to vote against the list of voters to ensure every voter and every ballot, including spoiled, were entered into the EPB correctly. If this does not solve the discrepancy, conduct a physical count of the ballots tabulated. All physical counts should be conducted by a team of 2 inspectors who have expressed a preference for different political parties. If the physical count is the same as the total number of voters as recorded in the poll book, the ballots must be retabulated. Contact the local clerk for instructions. If the physical count is more than the total number of voters as recorded in the poll book, do not retabulate the ballots. Make a complete record of the situation in the remarks page of the poll book. The ballot summary must balance unless there is a valid reason for the imbalance. A valid reason must be noted in the remarks section of the poll book to complete the record. Once the ballot summary is balanced, save and print it if printing in the precinct. Then save and print, if necessary, the list of voters and remarks report and save the voter history file. Once all of these items are saved, ensure they are all in the proper folder on the encrypted flash drive. Now proceed to the back page of the poll book. Complete the election inspector's completion certificate by recording the number of ballots tabulated, recording the number of envelope ballots and ensure that they are all properly sealed into the provisional ballot storage envelope, recording the number of voters according to the list of voters, verifying that the number of ballots tabulated plus provisional envelope ballots equals the number of voters, and if they do not and a valid discrepancy exists, a notation was made in the remarks section. Verify completion and balancing of the ballot summary, and that if any of the following items occurred, they were properly recorded. All formal challenges, all absent voter ballots tabulated, all ballots duplicated and tabulated, and all valid write-ins tallied. Place a check mark in each box as the task is completed and verified. Then attach a signed tabulator totals tape to each of the 3 copies of the page. The tabulator tape with the 0 tape should be attached to the copy intended for the local clerk. Proceed to the seal verification section and record the seal number of the ballot container. Remember, the ballot container should only have the following items inside: used ballots, unused ballots, VAT ballots, spoiled ballot envelope, original ballot envelope. The provisional ballot storage envelope should not be placed inside of the ballot container. It should be returned individually with the envelopes used in the final steps. Be very careful when writing the ballot storage container seal number down. A person from one political party should record the number, and someone from another political party should review the number recorded. Transposing numbers is a costly mistake and may lead to a precinct not being able to be recounted. As you are recording this information in the poll book, also record the seal number on the ballot storage container certificate. Make sure the person sealing and the person verifying sign in the appropriate locations. If you are transporting a memory device from the tabulator or EPB to the receiving board, place them into their approved container and record that seal number in the poll book and on the transfer case certificate as well. As an alternative, memory devices may remain sealed in tabulators until the expiration of the security period and the EPB flash drive may simply be placed in its own envelope under red paper seal for delivery to the local clerk. Once everything is sealed and the steps in the election inspector completion certificate are completed, all of the inspectors, including those that sealed and verified the sealing of the container, must sign under number 3, certifying completion of all of the closing steps. If you printed your reports in the polling location, place them into the appropriate sections of the poll book. Then, carefully remove the 2 extra copies of the Statement of Votes back page of the poll book. Place the local clerk copy with the tabulator tape attached to the zero tape into the local clerk's envelope. Place the second copy with the tabulator tape attached in the envelope addressed to the Board of Canvassers. Repeat this step with the write-in Statement of Votes. Once complete, place the poll book into the envelope addressed to the county clerk. All envelopes should be sealed with a red paper seal. After packing up the remaining supplies and securing the voting equipment, return the sealed ballot container and 4 envelopes to the receiving board.
This is a newer type of container that we have had some issues with in their short term of life here in the state. The way these are sealed, the zippers are supposed to interlock. And when they interlock, there is one eyelet that the zipper can go through, the seal can go through. What has happened in this particular case is that instead of running through the eyelet of the interlocking zippers, they've run the seal through the eyelets at the end of the zipper pulls. As a result, regardless of how tight you make your seal, you're still going to be able to open those zippers. The length of the zippers themselves, plus whatever slack you have in the seal itself. So again, you're going to have enough room here to put ballots in or take ballots out with a little bit of effort. The proper use of this particular container, number one, the eyelets at the end of the zippers need to be plugged. The state or the vendors are actually providing these plugs to us. One way is a pop rivet type mechanism. The other way is a shrink tubing type thing. You just put that over the zipper pulls. That is taking away the ability of election workers to use the wrong eyelets. And now, in this particular case, with the zippers completely pulled together, the seal has been run through that overlapping eyelet, and now we cannot open this container whatsoever. This is a properly sealed container. This is the traditional ballot bag. This is not and cannot be an approved container by your County Board of Canvassers. So you should not be using this as your sole method of securing ballots on election day. If your clerk shows up to a recount with your ballots only in this ballot bag, that precinct is not recountable, and you guys get to go home early from a recount.